WSMV Nashville. From Channel 4 News, this is The Scene at 10 with Demetria Kalodimos, Jeff McAtee, Bill Hall, and Rudy Kalis.
Good evening. Operation Desert Shield is now Operation Desert Storm.
U.S. and allied troops are at war tonight with Iraq. The fighting has been underway for 4 hours now. It started with a massive attack by American, British, and Saudi Arabian fighter jets. The planes were fully loaded with bombs, missiles, and guns aimed at targets in both Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. For a time, there appeared to be no retaliatory action on the part of Iraq, but that has changed. The French confirmed one Iraqi-fired Scud missile reached Saudi Arabia. We don't know yet whether any American planes have been hit or any lives lost, and we still don't know whether any Tennessee troops are directly involved in tonight's fighting. At 8 p.m., President Bush reported to the nation that the operation is proceeding as planned and that Iraqi military installations and arsenals were the first targets. Other American fighters bombed Iraqi-held areas of Kuwait.
5 months ago, Saddam Hussein started this cruel war against Kuwait. Tonight, the battle has been joined.
As the president spoke, squadrons of American fighter planes that had been stationed in Saudi Arabia were bombing military installations and arsenals in Iraq. The initial attacks were reported near Baghdad.
We are determined to knock out Saddam Hussein's nuclear bomb potential. We will also destroy his chemical weapons facilities. Much of Saddam's artillery and tanks will be destroyed. Our operations are designed to best protect the lives of all the coalition forces by targeting Saddam's vast military arsenal. Initial reports from General Schwarzkopf are that our operations are proceeding according to plan.
President Bush said the objectives of this operation are clear. Move the Iraqis out of Kuwait and return the affairs of that country to the government Saddam overthrew. With the planes in the air, the president spoke to concerns that sanctions might have worked against Iraq, given more time.
While the world waited, Saddam Hussein systematically raped, pillaged, and plundered a tiny nation. No threat to his own. He subjected the people of Kuwait to unspeakable atrocities.
Top U.S. military officials had no information about casualties. They admitted it may only be because there has not been time to hear from U.S. pilots involved in the attack. But there are no reports of a substantial Iraqi response to the Allied effort.
So far, there has been no air resistance.
How long will this operation last? President Bush didn't have an answer, promising this will not be another Vietnam.
When the troops we've sent in finish their work, I'm determined to bring them home as soon as possible. Tonight, as our forces fight, they and their families are in our prayers. May God bless each and every one of them and the coalition forces at our side in the Gulf, and may he continue to bless our nation, the United States of America.
There was no overlooking the attack from Fort Campbell. Air raid sirens blew on base as the first U.S. cruise missiles began finding their marks in Baghdad and other key targets. Mike O'Connell is at the base. Mike, was there any noticeable change in activity just prior to the attack?
Well, Jeff, militarily, things are really rather routine here at Fort Campbell, but when it comes to people, that is not the case at all. That's because while it's believed that only the U.S. Air Force is directly involved in the attack on Iraq right now, the 101st Airborne and its support units have almost 20,000 men and women on the ground in Saudi Arabia. The 101st is the forward-most U.S. Army unit in Saudi Arabia right now. In a town where almost everyone knows someone who is in Saudi Arabia, that means people are very concerned.
The logistics of what is happening on the battlefield.
Like thousands of military wives, Kelly Ortiz has been spending hours in front of the TV set. And that's how she learned about the U.S. airstrike against Iraq.
They were reporting from Baghdad, and they started hearing the shots.
Her husband, Roberto, is with the 20th Engineering Company, a support unit of the 101st Airborne, the forward-most U.S. Army unit in Saudi Arabia.
It's scary. That's all I can say. I hope everybody comes out all right, which I know they're not.
Son EJ, the oldest of 4 children, had one main concern.
My dad, mostly. Some of my friends' dads that's over there.
The Ortiz family lives in a subdivision that is made up almost entirely of military families, so word spread quickly. Doris Simpson is a soldier scheduled to leave for Saudi Arabia soon. Her husband, of less than a year, is already there with the 101st.
We just leave it up to the hands of the Lord. What'll be, will be.
What are you thinking about now, knowing that your husband is there?
He got me worried. He got me worried.
At a Baptist church with more than 24 members in Saudi Arabia, a regularly scheduled Wednesday evening service quickly turned into a prayer service for those in the military. At a steakhouse, employees and patrons gathered around a television.
I'm sorry that it had to come to this, of course, but I feel we had no choice. We couldn't back down.
I'll ship out tomorrow. To Saudi Arabia.
How do you feel about it, knowing that we're now at war?
How do you feel about it?
And in a military town, others rushed to talk with their units to see if their status had changed.
Something has to be done.
Is it a little scary?
Of course. There's people dying, sir.
Now, when might people from the 101st who are in Saudi Arabia see some action over there? We don't know, but Fort Campbell's public information officer said just a short time ago that it could be several days before the jets finish their operation, the Air Force jets finish their work, and then that the ground forces and the air assault units, air assault forces like the 101st, go into combat. So right now we believe that none of the 101st troops and their support units are involved in the fight. It could be several days before that would happen. But people, of course, are extremely anxious here, and they are watching the news very, very closely. So that's the situation here at Fort Campbell. Jeff, Demetria?
Okay, Mike, thank you very much. Mike O'Connell reporting from Fort Campbell. Demetria?
With the onslaught of war, family members of Tennessee National Guard soldiers may be in need of some special assistance. The Tennessee National Guard is offering a special family assistance program which offers counseling and financial help for families in need. Those needing help can call one of two numbers established by the Tennessee National Guard. Those numbers are 252-3326 or 252-3329. Once again, the numbers 252-3326 or 252-3329. It has been a tormenting evening for thousands of Middle Tennesseans who have relatives with America's forces in the Middle East. One Nashville woman calls it the day she both dreaded and expected. Vanessa Eccles reports that tonight families are finding comfort the only way they can with each other.
Ann Knowles was alone when she heard the news, but she wasn't alone for long.
They'll be okay. They're tough.
Ann's husband, Major J.W. Knowles, is with a Smyrna National Guard unit in the Middle East. Friends from the Guard and a military family support group came to try and give comfort and find out more about America's strike.
Our troops will have the best possible support in the entire world.
Those who couldn't be there in person called, including Ann's daughter in college.
Well, I'm glad you called. I thought about calling you, but I didn't know whether you was watching the news or not, so I didn't want to alarm you.
Ann describes this as the day she dreaded, expected, but still was not ready for as she watched the television accounts.
When she told me that it had started, I don't know, I was just numb. And then, I don't know what I did after that.
And as President Bush addressed the nation, Ann sat hundreds of miles away, surrounded by friends, but still not hearing enough to erase the worry from her face.
Tonight, as our forces fight, they and their families are in our prayers.
Ann says she is afraid of what will come next, how Iraq will retaliate, and what that will mean for the safety of her husband and others in the Middle East.
No president can easily commit our sons and daughters to war. They are the nation's finest. Ours is an all-volunteer force, magnificently trained, highly motivated. The troops know why they're there.
Ann began her evening in front of her television set, hoping to hear some encouraging news. Now she is worried there may be many more evenings here, hoping for what doesn't come quickly enough.
I'm hopeful that this fighting will not go on for long.
Vanessa Eccles, Channel 4 News.
Our news will continue in just a moment.
Stay tuned.
Now for 2 weeks and 2 weeks only, it's Furniture Center's semi-annual clearance sale. Every item in every one of our stores is specially tagged for this gigantic clearance with savings up to 75% off. Famous quality furniture, appliances, and electronics. Great name brands like Broyhill, Barclay, Action Lane, Lexington, Whirlpool, RCA, and more. All at the lowest prices of the year during Furniture Center's semi-annual clearance sale going on right now. So quantities are limited. Hurry in.
American hearts weigh heavy with concern for our troops in the Middle East. We at Channel 4 understand the concerns you and your family might have due to the military action in the Gulf. As a result, Crisis Call will be available 24 hours a day to help provide emotional support and referrals for these trying times. If you need help coping with the crisis in the Gulf, call Crisis Call 244-7444 for the family.
Come, see what's growing in the garden. What's chopping? What's baking? What's popping? What's shaking? What's savory? What's saucy? What's squiggly? What's sweet? What's twirling and whirling? What's wooing and eyeing? Come, see for yourself at the Olive Garden Italian restaurant, where all the best of Italy is yours.
America's Bounty, brought to you by the 20 million people who put food on your table.
News of the attack was expected on Capitol Hill. Congress voted last weekend to authorize war. The question was not if, but when battle would begin. Channel 4's Tom Lee joins us live now from Washington. Tom?
Jeff, that battle began exactly 18 hours after the deadline passed at midnight tonight. Washington here is reacting in two very different ways. Official Washington is scurrying around quite a bit tonight, giving media interviews, meeting, listening to phone calls, constituents, and preparing for what is expected to be a series of briefings tomorrow by administration officials. Unofficially, well, the city outside is fairly quiet. People are staying home, except at one well-known address, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. President Bush's speech set off a wide range of reactions throughout the country. Outside the White House, the mood was sad and subdued.
Our objectives are clear.
Congressman Bob Clement watched the president's speech more quietly tonight, but Clement had already signed on to tonight's attack.
I do hope that what we'll do is to continue the bombing on surgical targets, critical targets, and try to stay away from the civilian areas.
The assault surprised no one in Middle Tennessee's delegation, but it did disturb some.
And to be honest with you, I was a little bit scared. Seeing that sort of news, that sort of terrible news live, does something to you inside. It was impossible to go ahead and finish dinner. I've been watching all the news reports, trying to find out as best I can what really is going on.
Although we had all prayed this time wouldn't come, I don't think it's unexpected. And I just hope that the force is going to be swift and sure and significant enough that Saddam will get the message and pull out. And from all that I understand now, we've had a very successful early strike, almost a preemptive strike. And I think that probably there'll be a long night of bombing. And then in the morning, as the dust settles, as I say, hopefully Saddam will get that message and we'll start to pull out.
Jeff, congressional sources here in Washington tell us that this is how they expect the attack to run. They expect several days of bombing from the air, and then they expect a pause. During that pause, they expect President Bush to make an offer to Saddam Hussein, essentially to pull out of Kuwait then or face further consequences. If Hussein refuses, then the U.S. is likely to launch a ground attack against Kuwait and Iraq. And one final note, Jeff, I can't help but remark, without sounding a little melodramatic, how serious this matter has been taken by Tennessee's congressional delegation. I saw two congressmen cry today, just on their own, talking about this issue. They were so personally and deeply moved. A very serious and somber time here on Capitol Hill.
All right, thank you very much. Tom Lee reporting from Washington. Demetria?
In addition to the 20,000 Fort Campbell soldiers involved, 5,000 members of the Tennessee National Guard are taking part in Operation Desert Storm. Joining us now is Adjutant General Carl Wallace of the Tennessee National Guard. General, I understand you got a phone call through to the desert. What do you know about Tennessee troops' involvement tonight?
Well, it would appear that they're in good shape tonight, Demetria. Talked to some of the people there. They have moved positions, which is not unusual. But everything seems to be on track, and they're doing well.
Do you know what specific companies would be involved tonight?
As far as any ground troops, there were no ground troops involved in tonight, all air. It was airstrikes into Baghdad, and again, looking at the reports. But the ground troops are still in position, doing what they have been doing for the last almost 5.5 months now.
Were you surprised at all in the lack of strong Iraqi retaliation?
Yeah, that's one of the major surprises of the evening. I would have thought that there would have been more. Of course, I think the morning is going to have to bring the final results, but it would appear that it was most successful tonight.
Would you agree that this airstrike perhaps is just a prelude to a ground attack?
Well, I don't know. You can, over the past few weeks, we've read several scenarios, and the scenario that I think that was on most everybody's mind was the one that was done tonight, with the airstrikes, and from all indications, the airstrikes will continue for the next 3 or 4 days.
We heard on a news report that some of the tonnage that was dropped was perhaps equal to what was dropped in Hiroshima. Have you heard the same report?
No, I haven't heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Does it surprise you at all that the British and Saudi planes were involved?
No, that's right, exactly where they should have been.
General, what about the families here? What sort of support services does the Guard have for families concerned about their soldiers tonight?
Well, tonight our emphasis shifted from the men in the desert, men and women in the desert in our units. Their course is pretty well set. Of course, these times are very dramatic and for the families here. And I'm sure that most of them have watched the television tonight. They, like the rest of us, and their care and concern is our care and concern now.
And finally, rather quickly, would there be any sort of contact if injury or casualty occurred of the family? How long might that take?
Well, of course, it will operate under the prescribed system that has worked in every conflict that we've had. There is a system set, and the notification process is in place now, and would happen if we were unfortunate enough to have casualties.
Thank you very much, General Wallace, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Demetria.
Jeff?
A family of American immigrants here in Nashville who had suffered under Saddam Hussein's rule in years past tonight has mixed feelings about war with their native country. They are concerned for friends, relatives, and even strangers in Iraq who may die. But they also are happy to see a dictator's regime finally crumble. Nancy Ammons has their story.
Right. The Akrawi family's homeland lies in what is now northern Iraq. They are Kurdish, a country that technically no longer exists. The Akrawis are concerned for relatives and friends who still live in Iraq.
It's just so scary. I'm scared. I have relatives living there. About 30 of my cousins from my mom and my dad's side are forced to the war against the United States. And I've already, as I said, I've already lost 7 members of my family, the closest people, 3 of my uncles, my grandfather, and 3 of my cousins.
To do what must be done. They watch the latest TV reports, wondering how many more of their countrymen will die. It was the Kurdish people on whom Saddam Hussein experimented with chemical weapons in 1988. While the Akrawis fear for their friends now in danger, they also feel Saddam must be removed from power.
That's the only solution, I think. Saddam will not back out. Saddam will not give up or give in, you know. So maybe somebody's got to stop him.
We consider Saddam as the biggest enemy for the Kurdish nation in our history.
Ahmad Akrawi believes war could have been averted by giving economic sanctions a chance to work. He is worried not only for Kurds, but for Kuwaitis, Saudis, and for Americans.
He's very upset for the American people and the others. Civilians will get hurt.
But with the fear, there is hope. Hope that once Saddam is out of power, there may once again be a free Kurdistan.
Well, I hope, we'll have another president there, and that we will get our freedom. We will get our country back, just Kurdistan, which belongs to the Kurdish people.
Nancy Amons, Channel 4 News.
The move by U.S. forces has upset and disappointed many Nashvillians who have protested, chanted, and prayed for peace over the past several weeks. Their protests continue tonight, even as U.S. fighter jets took aim on targets in Iraq and Kuwait. Don Aaron has the story.
At the federal courthouse, chants for peace continue, even after war in the Middle East had begun. Early on, mostly young people made up this crowd, and they weren't shy about getting their message across to motorists on Broadway.
Bring them home now! Bring them home alive! Bring them home now! Bring them home alive!
I support the soldiers because they're my brothers and sisters. I mean, they belong to this country as much as I belong to this country. I don't support President Bush, though, and I don't support the administration. They've done something very wrong.
Peace now! Peace now! Several of the protesters were high school students. Among them, 16-year-old LaShonda Beer.
It really saddens me because when I think about all of the lives that are going to be lost because of oil, I mean, it upsets me.
What are you trying to accomplish by being here tonight?
We're trying to bring our soldiers home alive, not in body bags.
As word of war quickly spread, more and more people joined this crowd. There was no generation gap. Even this third grader came out to say he doesn't like the fighting.
Well, in school we voted if who wanted war and who didn't, and no one raised their hand for war. Everyone raised their hand for peace.
This is a very trying time for some. Jane Zahner has a son in the Army assigned to the Middle East.
Doesn't look like we'll ever learn. I'm very sorry for the children of Baghdad as well as my own child. This is no way for humanity to treat each other.
For the unknown soldier, the war is over.
These protesters don't want to be misunderstood. They say they do support American soldiers in the Middle East. What they don't like is what those soldiers have now been ordered to do. Don Aaron, Channel 4 News.
The beginning of Operation Desert Storm took Nashville by surprise. Some took to prayer, others responded with disbelief. Janet Sims reports.
Sportsman's Grill, a popular after-work spot at 6:15 tonight.
Seem to be bombing near the airport. There are other military installations that seem were hit. We saw some explosions within a mile of us, maybe a communication.
This place was really strange because it's very noisy, and you could have heard a pin drop. They turned the television up, and everybody was listening to it.
News of the air assault on Iraq hit Nashville, along with millions of people across the country.
I was in my car driving here, and I heard the report on the radio, and I came in and started watching it.
Hit Nashville, along with thousands of other people across the country.
I don't know. I mean, it's incredible. I can't believe it.
Chris Nishin says he vaguely remembers the Vietnam War, but he's actually living through the war between the United Nations and Iraq. He describes his feelings as shock.
I mean, I've never felt like this before. I mean, it's just, I feel like getting mad, and I feel like crying. I don't know what to do.
Let's pray that those who are key leaders.
Less than a mile away, members of the Woodmont Baptist Church gathered for what was supposed to be their normal church services. Tonight, the focus centered around the events unfolding in the Persian Gulf.
Let's bow our hearts, bow our heads, bow our whole lives unto God and ask his help. Ask his presence, that since there is a war, that it would be a limited conflict, it would quickly cease, that the casualties and the injuries can be minimal.
The congregation prayed that God would guide the leaders of the United States and other countries to a resolution of the war in the Middle East.
They need this in an MRE.
This group of National Guardsmen and Army reservists had planned to meet before today's turn of events. They say the news wasn't shocking because they had no doubt the war would occur.
This group is going in several different directions. Some of us are going overseas, and some of us are going to Washington, and some of us are going to other places in the United States. But yeah, this group's going to basically split up for a while, could be a long while.
To absent friends. To absent friends. That's right.
Senator Al Gore was in Memphis tonight, set to speak to a group called the World Affairs Council. Gore put off his own speech at the Peabody Hotel to watch the president's address to the nation. Al Gore voted for the resolution to authorize war. Tonight, he had this to say about the fighting.
Nobody wanted this. It came because Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait and represents a threat that will have to be dealt with, in the words of one of those soldiers quoted by the president, sooner or later. And for a variety of reasons, it is wiser to confront that threat now than to confront it later.
Senator Gore was expected to return to Washington immediately after his speech tonight.
If you're single, but just too busy to meet other singles, or divorced and don't know how to begin dating again, or you just haven't found someone special to share your life with, well, Great Expectations can make it happen. We're an exclusive video dating service where you can meet new people you might not ordinarily meet, who share your interests and values. At Great Expectations, you simply look through member profiles and find someone you'd like to know better without wasting a lot of time. When you find someone interesting, you take a look at their videotape. It's comfortable, it's confidential, and it's that simple. All you really need are Great Expectations right from the start. So make a date with Great Expectations. Call now for your free information kit.
Toyota's never been hotter. With 10 models priced under $10,000. We're talking Tercels and Corollas. Toyota Tercel, the lowest priced two-door sedan in America. Or check out Corolla, Toyota's trouble-free subcompact, now with option savings. Toyota's hot, hot, hot. Toyota, more for your money. It's hot, hot, hot.
Toyota. No place hops like Sonic.
That's because no place has Sonic's Brown Bag Special. Just $4.49. 2 burgers, 2 fries, 2 medium cups of Coke Classic. The Sonic Brown Bag Special. At $4.49, hey, it's no wonder.
No place hops like Sonic.
How big will it get and how long will it last? We have 2 retired military officers with us tonight. Charles Anderson was general of the Tennessee Army National Guard. Fred Tucker spent 20 years in the Marines and retired with the rank of major. General Anderson, has the Iraqi position tonight surprised you, this delay in retaliation?
No, because I think the most significant action here is that the Iraqi military is organized along the Soviet lines, and we've done an effective job, apparently, of disrupting their communications.
What might our next step be, or will we need a next step? There was a report that the Iraqi Air Force is decimated.
Well, I think we'll have to see what the intelligence reports show. I think it's really too early to jump to any conclusions like that. But hopefully they were scattered, and I think that if we can destroy enough of them, they'll be significantly outnumbered.
Major Tucker, was this air raid designed to flush out the Iraqi forces or to do real damage, or both?
In my opinion, I think the airstrike was designed to take out key military targets, to include weapons, communications, to cripple Iraq's ability to go on the offensive. And these strikes are preliminary actions prior to whatever else is required to bring this to a favorable conclusion.
Major Tucker, do you expect there to be other targets than just Saudi Arabia and Kuwait?
From our side or from their side?
Oh, either.
That's always a distinct possibility. Saddam Hussein has made threats to that effect, but hopefully we'll be able to counter those.
General Anderson, we've heard the term 10 days. We've heard perhaps longer. What's your guess as to how long it will last?
I think that a significant factor will be the impact of this initial air attack, and at that point then you'll be able to evaluate how much the ground forces will be utilized.
Major, have you got a guess?
I think it's premature to try to put a time limit on it. Hopefully it will be relatively short and with a minimum of casualties on both sides.
We certainly hope so. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. There have been large-scale protests against this war all over the country, and one can only imagine the demonstrations will grow larger now. The latest polls had showed that the country was literally split down the middle on the war question. Joining us tonight live is Chris Atwood with Nashville Sane Freeze. Chris, in a nutshell, how does your group feel about the situation today?
Well, Demetria, while we, unlike some protesters, have from the very beginning condemned Iraq for the invasion, occupation, and looting of Kuwait, and while we have been for a UN peacekeeping force that would be used for defensive purposes only to deter further aggression, we feel that it is utterly inexcusable that an American president was so hypocritically intransigent and brutally impatient that he would not give diplomacy and sanctions the chance that so many civilians and so many soldiers deserved for them to work. Sanctions were working. 50 to 60% was the gross national product of Iraq at this time, and you know, it had been lessened to that point, and exports were down 100% out of Iraq, imports 90%. Senator Sam Nunn of the Senate Armed Services Committee wanted to do that, and we just feel that sanctions were working and they were not given the chance, and that's tragic.
Chris, I need to interrupt for 1 second. We'll get right back to you, but Tom Lee is standing by live in Washington with Senator Jim Sasser. Tom?
That's right, Demetria. Senator Sasser has just joined us here. Senator, let me ask you first of all, what's the latest information you have about the level of the conflict now?
Well, all the initial information appears to be that the airstrikes are very successful and that casualties have been almost absent on the United States side, and I'm delighted and really thankful for that news. I hope it's accurate.
You're chairman of the Budget Committee, and there has been some study already about the cost that this war is likely to run to. There has been an estimate from the Congressional Budget Office suggesting $28 billion, more than the federal government spends on education in a whole year. Is that cost acceptable to you?
Well, I think we're dealing with human lives here, and we need to provide the wherewithal and the money to fully support our armed services in this combat they've been ordered into. Now, clearly, wars are expensive propositions, and this war is going to cost us anywhere from $20 billion up to as high as some cost projections, $86 billion. We'll simply have to find the money somewhere to pay for it.
And in human terms, a study that I understand you commissioned from the Brookings Institution that we reported on a couple of nights ago suggests that casualties in the best case scenario would be about 3,300 for the United States, could run into the tens of thousands. Is that your understanding?
Well, the study indicated that in the most optimistic scenario, the United States casualties would be in the neighborhood of 5,000, with 1,000 killed in action. Under a pessimistic scenario, casualties would be about 15,000, with 5,000 killed in action. But we pray that that's not going to happen, and I'm cautiously optimistic and encouraged by the initial reports that we're getting this evening. And maybe this thing will be over faster than we thought initially. I hope so.
Finally, why hedge some of your optimism? Why only cautious?
Well, all the reports are fragmentary at this point. They're coming from pilots and navigators who are trying to weave their way in the night through anti-aircraft fire, and these reports are always notoriously unreliable, but they all look good so far.
All right, Senator Sasser, thank you for joining us. Demetria, Senator James Sasser joins us from Washington. We will continue to stay with you as events develop.
Okay, thanks so much, Tom. And we're back now with Chris Atwood, who is live in our Channel 4 studios. Chris is a member of the group Nashville Sane Freeze. Senator Sasser was in the minority among the Tennessee delegation in the way that he voted against the war resolution. What do you think about the way the Tennessee delegation voted?
First of all, with respect to Senator Sasser, we're very grateful for his courage. With respect to Senator Gore and Congressman Clement, obviously we're very disappointed. I had word from Senator Gore's office, an aide in Washington from his office told me that while he thought at first sanctions might not work, that he thought that, as the information was coming in that sanctions were working and that Iraq was almost unique in the ability for sanctions to be able to work. And of course, Congressman Clement, with whom we met, said he was for sanctions, and I'm sorry that they didn't take a stand that could have brought peace.
Now, Chris, does your group have any quarrel with the troops over there essentially following orders and doing their jobs?
No, we, of course, we're very concerned about the troops, and our quarrel is not with the troops. Like you say, they're doing their jobs. We think that the best way to support these troops is to get them home as soon as possible.
And finally, do you think the anti-war activist risks being appearing un-American or unpatriotic in this time of war?
Well, they may appear that way to some people, but in my view and in a lot of people's view, the most patriotic thing you could do for your country is to give your country the best of your moral perspective on situations like this. Certainly democracy's supposed to be run for the people, of the people, and by the people, isn't it?
Okay. Thank you very much, Chris Atwood, for joining us in our Channel 4 studios. Jeff?
In the past few days, it was the waiting, the uncertainty that had stress levels rising and nerves unraveling. Well, what happens to both now that war is reality? Joining us is psychologist Kathy Sherrod. Kathy, is it natural to be feeling almost a sense of relief now that the waiting is over and the action has actually started?
Well, it depends. Some people will be feeling relief because this is a time for them to act, a time for them to do something. Some people are going to feel terrified because they have relatives or friends in Saudi Arabia and they can't do anything. The people here can't do anything. They're quite worried about them.
What about over the next few days now as the fighting continues? Can we expect to experience mood swings ourselves?
I would think so, because most people were surprised that we did attack tonight. And so you've got a combination of some people feeling numb and some people feeling angry and some people feeling delighted that it has gone so well. And so as the different news comes in, almost everyone will have an extreme reaction because it is an extreme situation. And what can happen is that the people who live next to you or work next to you can be at a different point in the mood swing than you are, which can make for some difficult interactions and conversations.
Everyone's looking out a different window at this thing.
Pretty much. Although the history is that Americans tend to pull together at a time of crisis. So if people would make an effort to realize that someone else may be seeing it differently from themselves and listen to each other, I think we can do as well as possibly can.
What about the loved ones, the family members back here on the home front who are watching now glued to the television because their loved one is over there at the front? What advice do you have for them?
People with loved ones in Saudi can pray, can write letters, can support each other.
I have another question now. We've heard so much in the past few months about the in-depth, instantaneous news coverage of this war, unlike any in history. Is this always good? Is it always best to know what's going on, or sometimes is ignorance bliss, as they say?
Ignorance is probably never bliss when a loved one is in a war. But on the other hand, what can happen with instantaneous news is that sometimes what you hear now can be found to be incorrect an hour from now. And again, that contributes to the up and downs, which eventually can be very wearing.
So we need to kind of keep a perspective here and not get too excited one way or the other.
If possible, try to maintain some calm and realize that some of the news is just not going to be accurate. It's going to be guesses.
It's unfolding as we speak.
Right.
Okay, Kathy Sherrod, thank you for being with us tonight.
You're welcome.
If the conflict in the Persian Gulf is more than you can handle right now and you find yourself unable to cope, help is just a phone call away. Trained counselors are on hand 24 hours a day at Crisis Call if you need to talk to someone. The number is 244-7444. Again, the number 244-7444. Crisis Call.
Well, I guess Bonanza really is a family place. Look at Gramps and the kids over there. Puts a tear in your eye, doesn't it? Oh, sure, I like taking my ma here, too. Day your Social Security check comes in, I call, and boom, here we are.
Enjoy our tender sirloin tips, including bread and choice of potato, only 99 cents when you purchase the all-you-can-eat adult food bar.
Hey, my treat next time, Ma. Honest.
Bonanza, where the extras don't cost extra.
For $21,300, you not only get all these items, but this handsome carrying case as well. Presenting the Lexus ES250. Come in for a test drive at Lexus of Nashville.
Bill Hall is here with weather tonight, and it's hard to get information about what's going on over there militarily and also weather-wise.
That's right, Demetria. Of course, the Commerce Department is a branch of the United States government, and I would imagine they don't want information like they're getting out. We tried from our satellite supply as early as, well, as recently as an hour and a half ago, and of course, as you saw the data we got back, response from them, that info is off limits at this time. And so the latest Middle East weather we got came at about 4 o'clock our time today, so that would be, what, 8 hours ahead of our time over there.
And a lot can change.
And we'll show you what they had to deal with over there.
Okay.
Okay, well, first of all, conditions here in Nashville for the last 24 hours, low 41, high 46. Record low for today, 6 below, set in 1982. Record high for today, 74, set in 1943. The air quality in the city is good today. We have had 0.07 of an inch of rainfall for the last 24 hours. The monthly and yearly total stays at 2.73. Normal precipitation for January, one of our wetter months, is 4.49. We're 0.34 of an inch now above normal at this point in the year. And at this hour, we have a cloudy sky and 42 degrees, light westerly surface wind, the pressure rising, relative humidity at 82%. Here's a look at our satellite imagery. And again, this was as of 4 o'clock our time this afternoon. Of course, at that time, you can see all the way from places like Syria across the southern areas of Jordan were cloudy. And, of course, as we moved into the country of Iraq itself, and you can see just about all of Iraq was under cloud cover at that time. The small area down here south of Iraq, of course, is Kuwait. And you can see the cloud covered much of that entire area, as well as the northern areas of the Gulf. And, of course, cloudy skies, I'm told, is what a lot of people over there wanted, militarily speaking. But, again, as we said, for those people who wanted to know about information like that, it's just a no-no in these times. And, of course, this was probably the last time we would be able to get such information out of there. And, of course, you can see the current temperatures, not the current temperatures, I beg your pardon, but the daytime highs and the morning lows in that part of the Middle East. Coming back home, minding our own business weather-wise, you can see that cloudy skies cover the northern two-thirds of the eastern half of the nation. And as of 10:35 tonight, here's the current precipitation picture over areas of the northeast and over portions of southern Florida. In terms of rain and snow, it's been heavy in portions of the high plains earlier, but it's tapered off to just areas of light snow from just west of the Arrowhead of Minnesota, International Falls, Warrow, those areas, across the Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and a small area of snow along the border areas of Indiana and Ohio. Temperatures at reporting stations as of about 45 minutes ago. You can see the cooler or milder readings across the southern tier of states, cooler readings, as you would imagine, across the northern tier of areas. Nation's recorded low this morning, 9 below at Alamosa, Colorado. It was 86 today at Key West in Florida. Cloudy skies covering most of the eastern half, at least the northeastern quadrant of the nation. A mixture of freezing rain and snow moving out of Iowa, Minnesota, down across portions of Wisconsin, Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana tonight. And as we go out west, just some snow advisories over portions of Arizona, New Mexico, windy conditions from California into Arizona. The map features tomorrow will look like this. We're calling for a mostly sunny day tomorrow. Snow showers confined to the northern tier of states. Storm in the southwest picks up a little bit of momentum, and we can see areas of freezing rain covering a big chunk of Texas. And under sunny skies tomorrow with light southwesterly winds, we may hit 47 for a high tomorrow. For Friday, reinforcing surge of colder air heads our way. The snow showers from the Appalachians up through the northeast. The system in the southern plains remains pretty much the same, except the low takes a dive towards Texas. On Saturday, we can see that low coming up out of the Gulf, and the northern sections of the Gulf coastal state may get a scare Saturday night and Sunday over the area. And Sunday for us, the cold air will be reinforced. Any moisture left over will certainly be met with the colder air. We have a split jet stream steering flow, and that means unseasonably cold weather settling southward, and any moisture that runs in is going to be taken care of in the form of freezing rain or maybe a snow flurry or two. That's a national story. Forecast tonight, do we have time for that? Partly cloudy and cold, may see a flurry, low 32 for tomorrow. Going to be partly cloudy, partly sunny, cool, high 47, low 27. Quick look at the 5-day forecast, Demetria. Partly sunny with another chance of flurries on Sunday, lows in the 20s, falling to the teens Monday morning, highs in the 40s, falling to the 30s for daytime highs by Sunday and Monday.
Okay. Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
We'll be back with sports in just a minute.
Some people want to change your table manners. At Minute Lube, we just want to change your oil.
Castor invites you to their Spring and Summer Bridal Fair and Fashion Show this Saturday at the Stouffer Nashville Hotel. Wedding renditions for the most important day of your life.
Eva Bornstein is the executive director of the Opera House in Woodstock, Illinois.
Come on, time to go. Come on.
She dismisses the legend of the ghost some say haunts this historical landmark. However, if you visit Woodstock, you just might happen to catch a glimpse. Eva, on the other hand, does believe in things a bit more predictable, like the car she drives. So it's no mystery she's been depending on Hondas for the last 10 years.
Tonight's sports is brought to you by Honda.
Well, elections, war, makes no difference. Yes. People still call in, want to know what the score is.
But they're very pleasant, they're very apologetic.
Oh, yes.
They say there's no way, it's not on radio. Would it be all right? Could you give me the score?
Well,
so I was glad to do that.
That's our job, right?
Well, it does
give out information.
Gives them a little relief as well. Absolutely. Despite all that's going on in the Middle East, they did play college basketball in the SEC this evening, including the Vanderbilt Commodores, who were at Auburn tonight, and without Todd Milholland, who damaged his knee in practice there at Auburn yesterday and sat out the basketball game. So Auburn went inside. Mackay pounded it home. Auburn led by the score of 15-9. But Vanderbilt shooting from three-point range. Kevin Angler with a three-pointer drills it. And the man who replaced inside Todd Milholland was John Ameche, who put it home on a nice little move. He made quite a contribution. And when Scott Stroud nailed it from three-point range, Vandy led it 41-28 at halftime. And they continued to move in the second half. England, with the drive, played a great basketball game. So did several of the other Commodores. Then at the other end, Wesley Person knocked it down to back within single digits. But each time the Commodores responded, Charles Mays had 15. England had a career-high 26 points, and Vandy won it by 21 points.
That's what you got to have on the road to win. That may be one of the better games we played as far as running on motion offense the entire ball game. And that's the way it's supposed to work.
And so the final in the game, 80-59, Vanderbilt with a big road victory. The Commodores will travel to Kentucky this Saturday. Also in the SEC this evening, Tennessee Vols went on the road and won in Gainesville 70-67, while Georgia defeated Mississippi State 81-73. And Kentucky, Vanderbilt's next opponent, defeated Ole Miss 95-85. One college game was postponed. That was North Carolina against North Carolina State. They called it off because of the situation in the Middle East. Syracuse defeated Connecticut 81-79 in overtime. Duke over Citadel 83-50. Virginia defeated Maryland 76-62, and South Carolina defeated Virginia Tech 83-67. In women's college basketball in town, the Vanderbilt Lady Commodores hosted nationally ranked Western Kentucky. Donna Harris with a second effort move. It was a close game throughout. Kim Pelkey had 27 points for the Lady Toppers. Great shooting from long range, and she pushed her club out front. Wendy Schultens had 18 points for Vanderbilt, but it wound up, even though the second effort was there, not quite enough because Western Kentucky came to Nashville and left with a victory. Scoreboard shows us the final 80-78. Western Kentucky a winner, and also in overtime, Tennessee Lady Vols defeated Florida 71-70. This weekend's NFL games, as well as the Super Bowl in Tampa, may face postponement if there's a great fear for terrorist activity. Those games are still on for now, but NASCAR officials admit they might have to think about running the Daytona 500 next month as well, or even postponing it. NASCAR President Jim Hunter says there are no plans now to postpone the race, but that could change if terrorist activity appears in the United States. Hunter adds that he feels every effort should be made to run the race, even in time of war. The race is carried on Armed Forces Radio. He figures an event like that would be a great boost to the morale of the troops. The race is scheduled for February 17th. And the Fords practiced again today at Daytona, and Jeff Bodine had the top speed of 193.334. Davey Allison over 193 as well. Mark Martin just over 192, and Sterling Marlin cracked the 190 barrier. And for the second day in a row, Bill Elliott was not there. His cars were there, but he did not show up. The Fords have 2 more days of testing, and they expect Bill to show up tomorrow. And no upsets, no surprises today at the Australian Open. Boris Becker won his second round match, while in women's play, Steffi Graf, Sina Garrison, and Gabriela Sabatini all advanced to the third round. So a lot of contingency plans being made depending on what happens in the next few days, and racing included.
Okay, thanks, Rudy. Back in just a minute.
Shoes and fashion. We must clean house. All department. Biggest sale ever. Tens of thousands of markdowns taken store-wide. Listen up. Ladies' rack and table sale. Thousands of pairs. Just $5. Entire stock red stickers. And ladies' children. 1/3 off. That's 1/3 off the already reduced sticker price. This is unreal. Boots. We're overstocked. Crazy deals you won't believe. And ladies' children's must go. We must clean house. All departments. Tens of thousands of markdowns taken store-wide. The Carnival Shoes and Fashion.
They destroyed everything he had, everything he was. Now crime has a new enemy, and justice has a new face. Who is Darkman? Find out February 14th at your local video store.
Hey, how about some rich, fudgy, chocolatey homemade brownies?
Homemade? No. Too hard to make.
Not with new Baker's Chocolate One Bowl brownies. It's the world's easiest homemade brownie recipe because it all happens in one bowl.
Mom's got a bowl.
In about the time it takes for a mix. With real Baker's Chocolate, you could have the richest, fudgiest homemade brownies.
I'll never make brownies from a mix again.
New Baker's Chocolate One Bowl brownie recipe. Homemade? You've never had it so easy.
Channel 4 presents a special 90-minute documentary on people with AIDS. Reflections in the Dark. Saturday at 6:30 on Channel 4.
Can't you do anything right?
When your world seems to be falling apart, no matter what it is, Crisis Call is there to listen and help work out your problems. Closed captioning of Channel 4 News is made possible in part by ITEL Incorporated, Intelligent Telephones.
The sun is rising over the Middle East now. Very shortly, detailed damage estimates will begin pouring into the command centers of Operation Desert Storm. Phase 1 of this attack has been limited to the air. Among the primary targets were Iraq's chemical warfare facilities and its potential nuclear threats. In an address earlier tonight, President Bush said he ordered the air assault because the world could wait no longer for Saddam Hussein to leave Kuwait.
While the world waited, Saddam sought to add to the chemical weapons arsenal he now possesses an infinitely more dangerous weapon of mass destruction, a nuclear weapon. And while the world waited,
While the world talked peace and withdrawal, Saddam Hussein dug in and moved massive forces into Kuwait.
The initial attack truly is an international effort. Besides the U.S., 3 other nations are taking part: the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. In all, 28 nations have contributed nearly 700,000 troops to the multinational force in the Gulf.
The first word on local troop movements and casualties could come tomorrow morning. Mike O'Connell joins us live now from Fort Campbell. Mike, what can we expect at the morning briefing?
Demetria, militarily, things here probably won't change very much. Yes, we are told that there will be an opening of the Public Information Office at 6 o'clock tomorrow, but there is no briefing scheduled, and the base officials say that is because that they have no information to tell us right now. Why is that? That's because while the 101st does have almost 20,000 men and women on the ground in Saudi Arabia, they are the most forward U.S. Army forces, if you will. They are on the front, but they are not involved in this fight right now. This is still an Air Force fight entirely. When will combat forces like the 101st go into action? We don't know. Harrelson says it could be 3 or 4 days before the 101st becomes involved. I should point out something. We always refer to the 101st as the 101st Airborne. That is their proper name, but they are an air assault unit. They fly helicopters into combat situations. They are not involved in any way with the jets, the Air Force jets that are conducting this war right now. So Harrelson says, we don't have any information for you guys. We probably won't, perhaps for a day or two, when the 101st and other combat and air assault forces get into this fight. Right now, to point out how things are rather routine, you may be able to see that there is a free flow of traffic onto and off of the post. We are told that the post is still at ThreatCom Alpha, which is its lowest level of security. They do check it and stop everybody who goes in to make sure they have the proper documentation, but that hasn't changed. That's always routine, and that's another sign that things are relatively routine here. Change, I suppose, will come from family members who their anxiety level will probably grow as the 101st would come closer and closer to seeing action. I suppose who determines what happens tomorrow involving the 101st is Saddam Hussein, as we wait and see what his response is to this attack tonight. So that's the situation here. Jeff and Demetria.
Thanks, Mike. You'll keep us posted at the Post. As we mentioned earlier, family members of the Tennessee National Guard soldiers may be in need of some special assistance. The Guard is offering a special family assistance program which offers counseling and financial help for families in need. Those needing help can call one of 2 numbers established by the Tennessee National Guard. Those numbers are 252-3326 or 252-3329.
For months, the threat of war has loomed over the entire country, especially in towns surrounding the nation's military bases. But that mood was not so somber today in at least one Clarksville school. That's because administrators there, while preparing for war, were keeping up a front of school life as usual. Nancy Amons explains.
It's another typical day at Northwest High School in Clarksville, a mile and a half from Fort Campbell's back door. You'd never guess that a war might begin in the Persian Gulf at any minute, or that 4 out of every 10 students here have a parent in the military.
My father's over there, and, you know, my mom is really praying. Everybody's praying. And if they're going to go to war, let them go to war. If they're not going to go to war, then send them home.
A high percentage of the staff here also has family either in or headed to the Gulf, like biology teacher Juanita Covington with 2 sons in the Navy.
My thoughts are in Norfolk, Virginia, primarily because that's where my 2 sons are.
But outwardly, the day-to-day life hasn't changed here. Although you see signs supporting the 101st Airborne, there are no special prayer services, no calling attention to the imminent threat. That's the way the administration wants it.
We want it to be normal. We're working for it to be normal.
Keeping to a routine is a stabilizing force in unstable times.
Somebody said man versus self. Who?
That is personally important for Denise Unruh Kitch, an English teacher whose husband is in Saudi maintaining helicopters. She believes it's also an important lesson for her students to learn.
They were concerned on Monday, asking me, are you going to bring a radio tomorrow? I said, well, I could. But, you know, it's like we can't just sit around and wait for something to happen. You know, we've got to go ahead and go on with our lives, because this is a really good skill to learn now about life. You have to go on. You just can't stop and say, I'm going to wait for it to happen.
But the school is not ignoring the fact that lives here are being impacted and will be impacted further if there are casualties in the Gulf.
We have set a crisis team up at our school just in case that the kids in this school and the community needs our help.
A half-dozen teachers and counselors have been trained to break grievous news to students if necessary.
But I hope I will have the ability to go to a room, take a child out, and say, I'm sorry, but this is what has happened.
Lessons in life that teachers here don't want to teach and hope that students will not have to learn. In Clarksville, Nancy Amons, Channel 4 News.
Our coverage of the Gulf War is just beginning. Later tonight, we'll begin updates twice each hour.
And at 5:30 tomorrow morning, there's a fresh, updated half-hour newscast reported by Sharon Puckett. Until later tonight, good night. We now rejoin NBC News coverage already in progress.
Good night.